In the crowded streets of Zirthon 9, where neon lights buzzed and traders shouted to be heard over the chaos, two small figures sat quietly in the same corner every day. They were twin alien girls, Lyra and Luma, identical in every way, with silver hair that shimmered like starlight and eyes as wide as moons. Their skin was pale blue, almost glowing in the neon haze, and their small hands clasped together nervously. To the bustling crowd around them, they seemed fragile, almost like delicate statues, but there was a fire in their hearts that no one could see. 7 days ago, a human had wandered into their village. His skin was pale and his eyes were bright and warm, filled with kindness that the twins had never seen before. He had laughed easily, talked in a strange language, and somehow made the twins feel safe in a world that often seemed cold and indifferent. Before leaving, he knelt down to their level, his smile soft and serious at the same time. "I will come back for you," he had promised. Lyra and Luma had nodded, their hearts swelling with hope, and in return, they had promised themselves that they would wait. The market around them was a riot of colors and noise. Traders shouted prices for glowing fruits and metallic fish, and children ran past with small hovering toys that zipped through the air. The twins did not notice any of it. They did not eat, did not play, did not speak to anyone else. Every morning they came to the exact same corner, sitting cross-legged on the cold stone floor, waiting for the human who had promised to return. Lyra was the older twin by mere minutes, but she carried herself with a sense of responsibility. Her hand never left Luma's, and she would whisper, "He will come. He promised." Luma, quieter and more cautious, would nod every time, though sometimes she would glance around at the busy market with a small frown. She noticed the curious stares, the whispers, and the pity in some of the villagers' eyes. Still, the memory of the human's gentle smile and the warmth of his voice held her in place. Each day, the twins felt a mixture of excitement and fear. They counted the hours, watching shadows stretch across the street, listening for any sound that might signal his arrival. Sometimes a stranger would pass by, their skin unfamiliar, their voice foreign, and the twins would hold their breath, hoping it was him. When it wasn't, their shoulders would slump and a quiet sigh would escape their lips. But still, they did not leave. The promise was stronger than hunger, stronger than cold, stronger than fear. Villagers began to notice their dedication. Some shook their heads, muttering that waiting for a human was foolish, that he might never return. But the twins did not care. "He saw us," Lyra whispered one evening as the market lights flickered on. "He promised." "Humans keep promises." Luma clutched her twin's hand tighter. "We have to believe," she said softly. And believe they did. Even the smallest details reminded them of the human. The way he laughed when he saw their starlight eyes, the way he reached out to touch their hands gently, the way he had said their names as if he already cared for them. Those memories were carved into their hearts, each one a tiny flame that refused to die. As night fell over the neon-lit market, the twins stayed in their corner, hugging each other against the cold, whispering the same words over and over. "He will come." He promised. No one knew how long their hope would last, or if the human would ever return. But at that moment, in the heart of a crowded, chaotic market, Lyra and Luma had one truth that nothing could shake. A promise made was a promise kept, and they would wait no matter how long it took. By the third day, the twins' hope began to feel heavier, like a stone in their chests. The market around them buzzed louder than ever, full of traders selling glowing fruits, shimmering fabrics, and strange mechanical pets. Children ran past laughing, but Lyra and Luma barely noticed. Their eyes were fixed on the distant street, searching for a human who might never come back. Each shadow made their hearts leap, only to crash when it wasn't him. The villagers had started whispering now, shaking their heads as they passed the twins' corner. "Why wait for one human?" one merchant asked, his voice low but firm. "He may never return. Come inside and eat something. You are too small to wait in the cold." But Lyra's face remained steady, even as a tremor of doubt passed through her. "We must wait," she said quietly, gripping Luma's hand. He promised. Humans keep promises. Luma nodded, though she could feel a tiny crack in her certainty. That evening, the twins huddled together as the neon lights flickered and rain began to fall in thin, icy sheets. The market emptied slowly, leaving only the vendors packing their stalls and the occasional passerby hurrying home. Lyra pulled her twin close and whispered stories of the human, his laughter, his smile, the kindness in his eyes. Luma listened, but sometimes her voice shook. "What if he doesn't come?" she asked softly. Lyra took a deep breath and held her twin's hand tightly. "Then we wait a little longer," she said. 7 days. We said 7 days. We must believe. We have to. Her words were firm, but her heart thudded wildly with fear. Every night she lay awake thinking about the possibility that the human might never return. But she could not let herself give up. Not when Luma's eyes depended on her courage. The twins' corner became their small world, a place of stubborn hope amidst chaos. Rain soaked their hair and clothes, and their small bodies trembled from cold, but they refused to leave. Other children offered them toys, strangers offered food, but the twins shook their heads. Nothing mattered except the promise. If they moved, even for a minute, they might miss him. Every sound of footsteps made their hearts leap. Every unfamiliar voice made their stomachs twist with anticipation. Yet, as night deepened, doubt crept in like a shadow they could not shake. "Maybe humans are different," Luma whispered one evening, her silver hair clinging to her wet face. "Maybe he forgot us." Lyra's grip on her twin's hand tightened, her knuckles white. "Humans don't forget promises like that," she insisted. "He saw us. He smiled at us. He cared. That is why he promised. We must trust him." Even as they clung to hope, their bodies ached. Hunger gnawed at them and cold seeped into their bones. The neon glow reflected off the wet streets, highlighting the twins' small, determined figures in the corner. They were fragile, yes, but unbreakable in their belief. They had made a silent pact, not just with the human, but with themselves. They would endure through ridicule, through hunger, through fear, because some promises were worth every second of suffering. As the night stretched on, Lyra and Luma whispered quietly to each other, sharing stories, memories, and fears. They spoke of the human's laughter, his gentle hands, and the strange warmth he had brought into their lives. Each memory was a spark in the darkness, keeping hope alive when everything else tried to snuff it out. And so, as the market slept and the rain fell softly, the twins sat in their corner, waiting. Waiting for a human who had promised. Waiting because they believed. Waiting because they knew deep inside that some promises were stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than even the coldest nights of Zirthon 9. By the 5th day, the twins' wait had become a test of their courage. Lyra and Luma sat in the same corner of the bustling Zirthon 9 market, their small frames hunched against the cold. The rain had stopped, but the wind whipped through the streets, carrying dust and the smells of sizzling food. Most of the market was too busy to notice them, yet their presence was impossible to ignore once someone looked closely. 2 tiny alien girls, identical in every way, with silver hair sticking to their wet faces, eyes wide and shimmering with hope. The twins had begun to count every hour, every passing moment stretching endlessly. Shadows moved like slow monsters over the neon tiles, and every unfamiliar step made their hearts leap. When the human didn't appear, a quiet ache settled in their stomachs. Hunger had become a companion, gnawing at them day and night. Their clothes were stiff with dirt and dampness, and their small bodies trembled from cold. Yet they refused to leave. Each sister drew strength from the other, holding hands tightly as if their grip alone could summon the human back. People in the market began to notice their stubborn presence. Some shook their heads in pity. "Poor children," said a vendor as he packed his stall, "waiting for a stranger who may never return." Children laughed at their wet hair and ragged clothes. Bullies poked and shoved, mocking them for sitting alone. "Humans don't care about you," one sneered, kicking the corner near their feet. Luma flinched, but Lyra's eyes blazed with quiet fury. She stood protectively over her twin, whispering, "Ignore them." He promised, "He will come." Despite the fear and discomfort, the twins found small moments of comfort in their shared memories. Lyra remembered the human's gentle voice, the way he laughed when he first saw them, the softness in his eyes. Luma remembered how he had knelt down to greet them, speaking slowly and carefully so they could understand. These recollections were like lanterns in the darkness, flickering but steady, guiding them through their trial. Night fell on the market again, and the twins huddled together for warmth. The neon signs reflected in their wide, hopeful eyes, painting their faces with colors that seemed almost magical. "We are strong," Lyra whispered, hugging Luma close. "We can wait. Even if it hurts, even if it is hard." Luma nodded, her small voice trembling. "I'm scared," she admitted. "But I will wait with you. We must wait." The twins' determination began to draw quiet admiration from some villagers. An old woman who ran a small tea stall placed a warm bowl near them. "Eat," she said softly, but Lyra shook her head. "We cannot," she replied. "If we leave, even for a moment, we may miss him." The old woman sighed but did not press them. She had seen hope in many forms, and she understood that this was different. This was a promise that needed keeping. As the market grew quieter, the twins continued their vigil, whispering words of encouragement to each other. They spoke of the human, of his laughter, of the day he had promised to return. Every story strengthened their resolve. Every whispered memory was a shield against the cold, hunger, and doubt that threatened to break them. By the end of the 5th day, Lyra and Luma's small corner had become a symbol of unwavering hope. Rain or shine, laughter or mockery, hunger or fear, they had not moved. Their hearts were full of trust, their spirits unbroken. In the chaos of Zirthon 9, 2 tiny alien girls proved that patience, courage, and faith could stand stronger than any challenge. Even as exhaustion and doubt pressed on them, the twins knew one truth. A promise made by someone who truly cared was worth every tear, every ache, every lonely hour, and they would wait. They would wait until the human returned, because some promises, no matter how long the wait, were worth believing in. By the 6th day, the twins' vigil had begun to draw attention from the whole market. Lyra and Luma, small and fragile-looking, sat in the same corner, their silver hair tangled and damp, their blue skin pale from hunger and sleepless nights. Most villagers had begun to whisper behind their hands, shaking their heads at the stubbornness of the 2 tiny aliens. "Why waste your time?" some murmured. "He may never come back. Go home, children, before it is too late." But Lyra's eyes were steady, burning with quiet determination. She would not let doubt touch them. She held Luma's hand tightly, refusing to look away from the street where the human had promised to return. "He promised," she whispered again and again, as if saying it loud enough would make it true. "He will come." Luma, though weaker in spirit, clung to her sister's words. She wanted to believe, and she wanted to be strong. "Yes," she murmured, "he will come." That day, a group of older children began to mock them, circling their corner like predators. "Waiting for a stranger?" one sneered. "No one cares about you. Humans forget easily. Why are you wasting your time?" They laughed cruelly, throwing scraps of food at the twins, who flinched but did not move. Lyra stood a little taller, shielding Luma with her small body. "He will come," she shouted, voice shaking but firm. "You don't understand. He promised." The bullies paused, surprised by the twins' courage. Most would have run at the first threat, but not these 2. They had endured hunger, rain, ridicule, and fear. Their hope had been tested every day, and now it had hardened into something unbreakable. Luma's small hands clenched, her voice trembling but determined. "We are waiting for him. You can't stop hope." Some villagers gathered around, watching quietly. A few shook their heads in disbelief, muttering that the twins were foolish. Others, however, felt a strange admiration for the tiny aliens who refused to give up. The market had never seen such steadfast patience, such unwavering faith, and it stirred something in the hearts of those who observed. Even among the chaos, the twins' courage shone brightly, a quiet beacon of hope. As the sun began to sink below the horizon, the twins' small bodies were tired, their stomachs hollow from hunger, and their throats dry from shouting. Yet their eyes did not leave the street. They remembered the human's smile, the warmth of his voice, the kindness in his eyes. Each memory was a shield against the fear, mocking, and exhaustion that surrounded them. They had promised to wait, and they would honor that promise, no matter how long it took. The night came slowly, painting the market in hues of neon and shadow. Vendors packed their stalls, children were called home, and the rain returned softly, washing the streets clean. Lyra and Luma huddled together, shivering but refusing to leave their corner. "We can do this," Lyra whispered, brushing rain from Luma's face. "We have waited so long. Only one more day." Luma nodded, her tears mixing with the rain. "I'm scared," she admitted. "But I trust you. We wait together." Even in the face of ridicule, hunger, and fear, the twins' bond grew stronger. They drew courage from each other, and in their hearts they carried a quiet flame of hope that no one could extinguish. Every whispered memory of the human, every thought of his promise, was another brick in the fortress they had built around their hearts. As the market emptied and darkness fell, the twins remained unyielding and steadfast. They had faced hunger, fear, and mockery, and still they sat, waiting, because some promises are worth everything, worth enduring pain, worth believing in even when hope seems impossible. And in that quiet corner of Zirthon 9, two tiny alien girls proved that courage, patience, and faith could shine brighter than the brightest neon lights. The seventh day began quietly, almost too quietly, as if the entire market held its breath for what was about to happen. Lyra and Luma had not slept the night before. Their small bodies ached from hunger, and the chill of the early morning rain seeped into their bones. Yet they did not move from their corner. Their eyes, wide and shimmering, were fixed on the street ahead. Every shadow, every footstep made their hearts leap and then crash when it wasn't him. For 7 days they had endured hunger, ridicule, and exhaustion. They had ignored the whispers of villagers, the teasing of children, and even the occasional hand of kindness that offered food. Nothing mattered except the promise of the human who had smiled at them, knelt before them and said, "I will return." That promise had become a lifeline, a reason to breathe, a reason to continue, even when hope felt like a fragile flame ready to be extinguished. Lyra's hand never left Luma's. They sat huddled together, whispering softly, reminding each other why they waited. "He will come," Lyra said again and again, her voice steady despite the tremble of her lips. Luma nodded, trying to believe as much as she wanted to cry. "Yes," she whispered. "He promised. He will come." Hours passed slowly. The sun rose higher, casting golden light on the wet streets, reflecting off neon signs and painting the market in brilliant colors. The twins' eyes scanned every movement, every passerby. Their hearts were ready to leap at the slightest sign of him. And then, a shadow appeared. A human figure, tall and familiar, weaving through the crowd. Lyra gasped, and Luma's hands shook uncontrollably. "It's him!" Luma whispered, her voice breaking with disbelief and joy. The human ran toward them, his face bright with recognition and relief. His eyes found theirs immediately, and a smile spread across his face. The same warm, gentle smile that had filled their hearts with hope 7 days ago. "Lyra, Luma," he called, and his voice carried across the market like sunlight breaking through clouds. The twins could not move fast enough. They scrambled toward him, tears streaming down their faces, laughter and sobs mixed together in a symphony of relief. They had waited 7 days, endured everything, and finally, he was here. The human knelt down, scooping them into his arms, holding them close as if he would never let go. His embrace was warm, strong, and real, grounding the twins after a week of fear and uncertainty. "I promised," he said softly, brushing their wet hair from their faces. "And I always keep my promises." Lyra and Luma could only nod, their voices lost in tears. For a moment, nothing else existed. No market, no strangers, no cold, no hunger. Only the human, only the promise kept, only the relief that they had not been abandoned. The villagers watched quietly, some in awe, some shaking their heads in disbelief. 2 tiny alien girls, waiting day after day, had been rewarded for their faith. The human held them gently, speaking softly. "You waited, even when it was hard. You were brave. You never gave up." That is why I came back. Lyra clung tightly to his shoulders, and Luma pressed her face against his chest. They had waited 7 days, and now every second of suffering, every tear, every shiver of cold was worth it. The human's presence, his words, his promise, it made everything meaningful. For the first time in a week, Lyra and Luma felt safe. Not just protected, but truly understood. They had been seen, remembered, and cherished. Their hope, their faith, and their courage had not been wasted. And in that corner of Zirthon 9, 2 tiny alien girls learned a truth that would stay with them forever. Some promises, no matter how fragile or long delayed, were stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than time itself. After the long, tense week of waiting, Lyra and Luma were finally cradled in the arms of the human who had promised to return. The market around them slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but the twins hardly noticed. All they could feel was the warmth of his embrace and the steady, reassuring sound of his voice. His eyes met theirs, filled with a gentle kindness that seemed to melt away all the fear, exhaustion, and doubt they had carried for 7 days. "I never forget a promise," the human said softly, brushing damp hair from their faces. "When I saw you, I knew something special about you. Your courage, your hope. It was unlike anything I had seen before. That is why I had to come back." Lyra's small hands trembled as she held on to him, tears streaming down her cheeks. She had believed in him all along, but hearing these words made the hope inside her flare brighter than ever. Luma clung to his arm, whispering his name, unable to form sentences. They had waited, endured, and suffered, but the human's return made every second of that week worth it. You waited through hunger, rain, and cold. You even faced ridicule from others, he continued. Yet you did not move. You trusted me. You believed in my promise. That is bravery, more than anyone I have ever known. Lyra's chest swelled with pride, and Luma's tears of relief became tears of joy. They realized that their determination, their courage, had been seen and valued. It was not foolishness to hope. It was strength. The human shifted gently, bringing their faces closer. I came back not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because you deserved it. You showed me that even the smallest, most fragile creatures can have the strongest hearts. You taught me something I could never forget. His words wrapped around them like a warm blanket, comforting them in ways they had never imagined. Lyra and Luma listened quietly, their tears slowing as the weight of fear lifted from their tiny shoulders. Every moment of pain, every hour of doubt had led to this. The human continued. From now on, I will take care of you. I will watch over you. Not because it is my duty, but because you have shown me that hope and courage are worth protecting. For the twins, these words were more than reassurance. They were a promise returned. The human's kindness, his loyalty, his belief in them mirrored exactly what they had believed about him. They had trusted a stranger, a human, in a world that often seemed harsh, and he had proven that their faith was not misplaced. Luma finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. We waited because we knew you would come back. Her words carried all the weight of 7 days of hope, fear, and determination. The human smiled, gently holding her chin to meet her gaze. And I did. I promised, and I always keep my promises. Your trust was never wasted. Lyra leaned her forehead against his chest, her heart pounding with relief and gratitude. For the first time in days, she felt truly safe. She realized that humans could be fragile, yes, but their hearts could also be vast, deep, and steadfast. They could honor promises, cherish trust, and recognize courage wherever they found it, even in 2 small alien girls waiting in a corner of a busy market. The twins stayed in his arms as the neon lights flickered around them, the market alive with movement but no longer threatening. They had endured, believed, and waited, and now they were rewarded with more than safety. They were rewarded with respect, acknowledgement, and a bond that would last a lifetime. In that moment, Lyra and Luma understood something profound. Hope, courage, and faith were not just words. They were actions. They were choices. And sometimes, the smallest beings could show the greatest strength. teaching even humans a lesson about what it truly meant to believe. The market of Zirthon 9 slowly returned to its usual rhythm. But for Lyra and Luma, nothing would ever be the same. The 7 days of waiting, of hunger, fear, and doubt had ended, replaced by warmth, laughter, and the comforting presence of the human who had promised to return. They were no longer just two tiny alien girls sitting in a lonely corner. They were witnesses to the power of promises, hope, and courage. The human held them gently, letting them feel the safety and strength of his arms. "You waited when it was hardest," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You showed me that even the smallest beings can have the strongest hearts. That is something to be proud of." Lyra and Luma listened, tears in their eyes. But this time they were tears of joy, not fear. Their small hands held on to him tightly as if letting go could undo all they had endured. Days passed, and the human introduced them to a world they had only imagined. He showed them places filled with laughter and light, taught them simple human games, and shared stories of courage, kindness, and friendship. The twins, who had once clung to memories of a fleeting moment, now had new memories, warm, safe, and filled with hope. Each smile, each gentle word, reinforced what they had already learned. Promises were powerful, and courage could move mountains. The villagers watched quietly as the twins' lives transformed. Some had mocked them for their stubbornness, but now they could see the reward of patience and faith. Lyra and Luma moved through the market no longer as fragile girls, but as symbols of unwavering hope. Their story spread through the streets. Two small aliens who had waited 7 days for a promise, and a human who had returned, proving that trust and kindness were real, even across worlds. Lyra often sat quietly, holding her twin's hand, reflecting on what they had endured. "We waited," she whispered one evening, looking at the neon lights reflecting in Luma's silver hair. "And it changed everything. We believed, and he came back. We were strong, Luma. We were brave." Luma smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Yes," she replied softly. "And now we know humans can keep their promises. And maybe we can keep ours too." The human knelt beside them, his eyes meeting theirs with warmth and pride. "You taught me something I will never forget," he said. "Hope is powerful. Courage is contagious, and the smallest hearts can hold the greatest strength." The twins looked at each other, feeling the truth of his words. 7 days ago they had been small and uncertain, but now they understood their own power. Their belief, their patience, and their unwavering faith had shaped the world around them, and it had shaped the human as well. In the corner of the market where they had once waited, Lyra and Luma stood together, no longer fragile but radiant with the light of their own courage. They laughed, ran, and explored, sharing stories of the human's kindness and the lessons of the 7-day vigil. The bond between the twins and the human grew deeper every day, a connection built on trust, hope, and the unbreakable promise that had brought them together. And in their hearts, Lyra and Luma carried a truth that would remain forever. Sometimes the smallest beings, the quietest voices, the most overlooked lives, could teach the greatest lessons. Hope, faith, and courage were not measured by size or strength, but by the willingness to believe in something bigger than oneself. The twins had waited 7 days, and in those 7 days they had learned the greatest lesson of all, that promises, when kept, could change everything. They had waited, and their patience, faith, and courage had been rewarded. A new beginning had arrived, and the market, the human, and their own hearts would never be the same again. Lyra and Luma smiled at each other, hand in hand, knowing that no matter what challenges came next, they would face them together. Because hope, courage, and the power of a promise had already changed their world, and nothing could take that away.